Hey guys, if you haven't noticed, I'm doing something a little bit different this week, and there's a reason for that. If you couldn't tell by the thumbnail or the title of this video, we're going to be talking about Sound of Freedom, a new movie that came out this month on 4th of July. It's the #1 movie at the box office right now, and it's beating up Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible. And there's a reason that this movie is as popular as it is, and it's also got some controversy right now. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do this video, is to kind of address that situation, but also talk about the movie. I'm a fan of film, so I like cinematography and talking about directing and style. We'll do a little bit of that, but the most important reason is the topic of the movie, the reason why there's a lot of buzz around this movie, and how it's raising awareness and the conversation around human trafficking and child trafficking and child sex trafficking. All of those things we're going to talk about. Uncomfortable topics. Trust me, when I was putting the notes together for this and coming up with all the facts and things I'm going to share with you, it was uncomfortable. Watching the movie is uncomfortable. I went Thursday night. It came out on the 4th of July, like I just mentioned. So I went like a week after it's already been out. A lot of friends have been talking about it. I've seen it posted all over on social media. There's a reason I wanted to do this, right? So I had a video all set, edited. A guest was on the show. I interviewed him, and I'm going to have that released next week. But the reason I'm putting this out right now is I wanted to give my 2 cents on it, but also it's to raise awareness. The #1 reason that I'm doing this video is there's no such thing as too much awareness when you're shining light on human trafficking, sex trafficking. Like there's not enough people that can help out in that situation until it's completely eradicated, which we haven't even put a dent into that. Then we need to keep talking about it. We need to keep helping out. We need to raise awareness. We need to share videos, whatever it is that we can do to help out. So there's so many different ways you can help, but we'll talk about that in just a couple minutes as well. So the reason I did this video is because Thursday night, packed house, emotional night, watching that film, Sound of Freedom. The movie ends. And there's a message about 3 minutes after the credits start rolling. And it's from the main actor in the movie who plays Tim Ballard. The actor's name is Jim Caviezel. He's the actor who played Jesus in Passion of the Christ. He did an awesome job in this movie playing Tim Ballard. Tim is a real person, all right? True story, as it says in the preview of the movie and at the very beginning of the film. It says, based on an incredible true story. And I have some notes here I'm going to be looking at, so don't mind me. But again, the #1 reason I'm doing this video right now and why I push back an already edited video is because I wanted to raise awareness. Okay, and I actually almost talked myself out of doing it. I'm like, you know what? A lot of people are talking about this. There's a lot of YouTube channels. There's a lot of coverage on this already. Tim's been interviewed on like just about every podcast out there on this topic. And so there's been a lot of awareness out there. And good and bad. There's some people talking about controversies and conspiracies, and we'll get a little bit into that today, but I have my own thoughts on it. But really, I just thought to myself before I almost talked myself out of it. I said, one more video for good, shining more light, even if it's like one flashlight in a forest, there's a little bit more light that wasn't there 2 minutes ago, right? So I'm glad that I'm here. Thank you for being with me. I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. Appreciate you being, if you're new to the channel, this is your first time. Again, this is something different. I usually interview entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, athletes, authors, amazing people. I pick their brain. I typically interview them for 30 to 60 minutes and really get into what makes them a high performer. So if that's really your cup of tea and you're usually here for that, and maybe this is something different, I appreciate you being here, and hopefully you stick around for the end of the message, because there's an important reason I'm creating this content today and putting this episode out. And if you're here because you wanted to get my review on Sound of Freedom, and you're like, oh, this guy talks about entrepreneurship and he has a pretty cool business podcast, I appreciate you checking out the channel and the podcast for other episodes as well. I think you'll really enjoy it, and I appreciate you being here. Here's a fact that really jumps out at me, right? 1.2 million children are trafficked each year, okay? So that's really my why behind doing this. 1.2 million children need our help that are being trafficked each year. In the movie Sound of Freedom, it's one of the most, in my opinion, most important films ever. Whether you liked it, hated it, think it's a conspiracy or whatever, some crazy thing that is out there. All right, we'll talk about it, like I said, in a minute. wherever you stand on it doesn't change my opinion. And that's my opinion. And I'd say it's even more than my opinion, because whether you agree with it or don't, you cannot argue that it's not one of the most important films to date, because it's getting this conversation started. And this is an important conversation that we need to be having with our families, with our friends. We're talking about it. Are we sharing videos? Do people know that this is going on in the U.S.? That's where I'm based out of, the United States. A lot of times people think, oh, the movie was shot in Colombia and I believe Honduras, right? Oh, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen on our soil. Yes, it does, right? Another point right here is what we're talking about. This is not a political issue. It's a people issue. That's why I'm addressing it. I don't talk about politics typically on the show. If we do, it usually gets shelved pretty quickly. I'm here to inspire people. I'm here to give you information. I'm here to help you, right? To be kind, remind people to be bold, be great, be grateful. That's why I'm here. All right? I'm here to inspire and have my guests on the show. I get out of the way. I interview them, get out of the way, and let them inspire you. I don't get into politics, okay? This is not a political issue. It's a people issue. People need our help. And this movie is helping stir up some of these conversations and reminding people that it's important that we do something. We don't just sit by idle, all right? There are more people enslaved today than any other point in history. That blew my mind. More people enslaved today in 2023 than ever in history. We're just acting like this happened somewhere over there. No. Check this out. It's a $150 billion industry, which is second only to the war on drugs. The war on drugs is a $500+ billion industry. Human trafficking is a $150 billion industry. Here's the main difference between drugs and human trafficking. Okay? The difference is you can sell drugs once, they get consumed once, that's the end of it. That's the end of the transaction. Right? Shelf life, it's over. With a human being, they get sold, used and abused 5 to 10 times a day for 10+ years. That's one person that can get used over and over and sold over and over and abused over and over again. Okay? This is real, guys. This is happening here in our country. And if you're listening from another country, check it out. It's probably happening in your country. Way more than you'd hope it to be. Here's another fact for you. The U.S. is the highest consumer in child pornography, which is one of the leading reasons that there's even a demand for this. All right? So these pedophiles and these freaks that get off on this crap are driving this industry to even exist. All right? And that's people online. The recording videos of these things happening, and people are watching these videos and consuming them all over the world. And that's really what's driving it. But then also there's people who don't get off on that anymore, and now they want the real thing. And that's obviously, all of this is terrible, but now that's even driving it to this other level. Some of these sickos, they're not getting what they need anymore, so they're literally like flying wherever across the country or across the world to go seek this stuff out. Whether you're listening or watching mainstream media and they're smearing it, because there's a lot of smear campaigns going on about Tim Ballard and the funding of the movie. Look, I don't care so much about that stuff. All right. The fact is we're talking about it. Now you go make up your own mind about it. Go watch the film first. All right. And then you can make a decision what you think. Do your homework on Tim and do your homework on Operation Underground Railroad or whatever you want to do, and make up your own opinions on it. I've done my homework over the last couple days. I saw it on Thursday. You're watching this on a Monday. It's only been a couple days since I've done my homework. And I've decided I'm going to release this video and talk about the most important issue is that there are people out there that need our help. There are children out there that need our help. So I wasn't going to not do this video because there's some conspiracy that might be connected to it because somebody said this and said that. Like, I'm not really worried about that. You guys can talk about that in the comments or whatever. I'm always willing to listen and hear, and discernment's important. But I'm talking about eradicating human trafficking, child sex trafficking. That is what this video is about. The light and the darkness, okay? Light in the Darkness is the title of a PragerU documentary talking about Tim, and it actually follows him on some real events that happened, body camera footage. You're going to say this stuff didn't happen. Well, there's body cam footage of Tim and other people in the Underground Railroad, and he partners up with local law enforcement to bring these sickos down. And it's a really interesting documentary. So if you saw Sound of Freedom and you really liked it and you're inspired by it and you want to take action, make a difference, I recommend you also check out Light in the Darkness on PragerU. I didn't even know what PragerU is, I admit. I don't know if that it's embarrassing or whatever. Up until about Thursday and did some more research, I saw that there's more content out there to learn about this stuff. It's sick to me that large news outlets, different magazines, newspapers, news media on TV, social media, YouTubers are smearing this movie, or at least making an attempt to smear this movie because they might not like one thing about it, or they have a question about someone who funded it or whatever, right? And they try to turn the whole thing upside down. It's like, okay, look into that stuff, talk about it. That's cool. Bring awareness to that as well. That's great. Does that change what we're talking about here? Does that change that there's a need, that there's children, 1.2 million children that need our help right now? It doesn't change any of that. This movie, Sound of Freedom, many of you probably know this already. Disney bought the rights to Fox. Fox actually owned this film when it was being made about 5 years ago. It came out 5 years after it was written and directed, and they were already working on it and putting it together. And Disney bought Fox and then technically owned the film. And then they decided to shelf it. Now, I'm not trying to smear Disney right now, just like other people are smearing the movie or Tim Ballard or people that are doing good. But I'm just asking why. Can we find out why? Has Disney, can they speak on the fact why they don't want this movie out there? There's no other good reason. It's a fantastic film. It's directed, produced, put together well. The acting's great. Could have put it out under Disney. Disney is a place where kids are supposed to love to go. Families are supposed to go, have a great time. It's a beautiful thing. It's part of your childhood. Why wouldn't they want to put a movie out that's supporting ending abuse for children? It kind of makes sense. Like, hey, Disney's a children's company, and they're doing good things for children. But no, Disney didn't want anything to do with this movie, apparently, and they didn't release it. And then it got repurchased by Angel Studios, which is more of an indie studio, and I thought they did a fantastic job. But there's so many roadblocks for this thing to come out, and that's why I'm celebrating the fact that it did come out, and that this movie has people like myself and many others talking about it and looking to get this information out to the world. So I'd say that. The smear campaigns are going on. Look into them, read the articles, find out the facts. I encourage everybody to do that. It doesn't change my opinion on that this is an important topic and we need to help out. I think it's sick and twisted that people would try to write. I mean, there's a couple large newspapers just refuse to even acknowledge the film up until like the last couple days. They just pretended that it's not the number one movie at the box office. They didn't even send people to review it in their major newspapers. Makes you wonder, like, who's telling them to do that? Who's running the ship over there? All right, so here's a fact for you. Tim Ballard spent more than a decade working as a special agent for the Department of Homeland Security, where he was assigned to the Internet Crimes Against Children, ICAC task, the task force. All right, he was deployed as an undercover operative. That's what this film is about. There's scenes in this film that were obviously a reenactment for the film of what actually happened, but it was very similar to what really went down. Again, there's body cam footage. And then, as I mentioned, check out the documentary as well. That's on PragerU, because there's more footage there, different situations. I mean, you can only show so much in the film. So if you want more information on that, check it out. Here's the deal. The first step to eradicating this crime, said it at the top of the show, why I'm doing this, is awareness. The first step to eradicating this crime is awareness. And that is what Sound of Freedom does. That's what it did for me. That's why I sat at the theater pretty much almost in a state of paralysis after the film ended. All right? Not to mention, and I'm kind of talked about this at the beginning, I'm a fan of film and cinematography, and when a movie's done really well, the acting is great, and the directing is great, and the cinematography looks good. I mean, this film it could have been like a almost like a James Bond type movie. It had that feel. There's some action to it. The acting was good. I mean, the bad guys and stuff were probably even more believable than I thought. The acting and stuff was good all the way. Usually, you get kind of the bad guy, the villain in a movie, and it's like a terrible actor that just threw him in there. Like he's the villain. Like read your lines and whatever. I mean, this movie was really done well. So if you're just a fan of film and you haven't seen it yet, go see the film. I think you'd enjoy that it's done well, and then you'd get more knowledge about this horrific thing that's going on, and it can be something that you talk about or do something about yourself. Take your own action. So step one, awareness. Check the movie out. Like I said, it holds up. Here's the thing. I'm a parent. I have a beautiful 8-year-old daughter. It's probably another reason, ding, 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 why when I saw this, I felt like I had to do something about it. I had to say something about it. I have a podcast. I've done 193 episodes. Why wouldn't I do another episode and spend some time talking about this, right? I couldn't rest my head on my pillow tonight if I didn't do this episode. Say something. Put this information out there. If you're a parent and you're like, hey, man, I don't know if I want my kids seeing this, or my kid's 12 or 13 and it's PG-13, maybe they can see it. Well, if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend the number one thing you do as a parent is go watch the movie yourself first. And then if you feel, my kid can see this, or, they've watched James Bond, like I just said, and it's kind of a similar thing, but this is just based on a real story, then you can make that judgment. You're a parent, right? Remember that we're the parents. We get to choose what our kids watch. And in this case, you can decide if you want them to see this or not. It's an educational tool, and it's something that I encourage parents to talk about. I actually just had a conversation last night with my ex-wife about this. Like, when are we going to bring this up, or kind of sit down with our daughter and have this conversation about being careful on what's going on and listening and seeing what's going on when you're at school or whatever, right? It's an important thing for us to do, is educate our children. So don't get that information from me. Yes, it's PG-13, but go see the film first, and then you can make that appropriate decision for your family. Comment your thoughts below. If you guys saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it. I usually rate a movie out of 10. That's my family thing. Like, we go see a movie. Hey, how was it? You saw, the new Tom Hanks movie, whatever. What'd you give it? That's the first question. 8 out of 10. Oh, I'm going to go watch that, or I'll stream it when it comes out on Netflix or whatever. I give this movie a 9 or 10 out of 10. Legit score, not fluffing it because it was an impactful film. It's a 9 or 10, just the way it was done that well. The only reason I usually don't give out 10s for almost anything. There's like literally a handful of movies that I've given a 10 to over in my lifespan, but I'm going to give it a 9 just because I think they could have covered a little bit more about like the U.S. side of things, just to give us a better feel for like what's actually going on, or maybe a little bit more of Tim's story. So if I had to deduct a point, it would just be to get a little bit more backstory and a little bit more what's going on our soil, to kind of bring it home a little bit, literally bring it home. But give me I want your feedback. Comment below. What's your score out of 10 for the movie? And again, it's okay to disagree with me. I want that to be important. Like, I'm not just looking for a bunch of people to head nod, like, yeah, Mike, whatever you say. No, like, I want you to know. If for some reason anything I said in this video you disagree with, I'd love to hear that. I'd love to be able to respond to it. But again, I don't think any of us can really disagree with the fact that exposing human trafficking and the fact that it's happening here, there's 1.2 million children impacted by this that need our help. What more can you say about that? You're going to disagree with me that that's important? Okay, do that in the comments, and everybody could see that. Interesting that that's your take. So my number one main takeaway that I'd like you to get from this video, and thank you guys for being with me and checking this out. Again, if it's your first time here, this is so different compared to what difficult topics do come up on the show. And we talk about them. I talk about them with my guests, but really this is a different, the solo shows I maybe do 1 or 2 of them a year, if that. So, hey, if you guys have been tuning in for a long time and been with me since the beginning or been listening to some of my more recent episodes and you like the solo shows, let me know. I'll do more of these. I'm happy to do this, whether it's a movie review or entrepreneurial event I go to and I do a little review or recap. Let me know. I'd love to get more feedback on that. And I want to put things out that you guys enjoy. I don't want to just make videos to make videos. If this is something that you like the style, you want me to do more of them, let me know and I'll do more of these. But my number one main takeaway is that there are children all around the world that they're hurting right now. They need us right now. Used and abused violently, daily, multiple times a day. They need our help. They need your help. They need my help. Okay? I don't have all the answers, guys. I created this video as really a step one for myself and hopefully for you as well. So as we continue to do our research, we then need to take action. That's what I encourage you guys to do, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's sharing this video or other videos with, similar takes, whether it's the movie or just trafficking in general that you're exposing. That's one way you can do it. You can financially give. You could go see the movie with your family this week or weekend. Do it quick because I know indie movies usually don't stick around. Like our local theater has it maybe for one more week, I think. Obviously, as we continue to watch it, or if you go to see it a second time, and I know there's even an opportunity on Angel Studios where you can buy tickets for other people, those that want to see the movie that maybe are in a tough financial situation. I say we, but anybody who's supporting this movement wants to help out, you can do that. You can pay it forward. The other thing you could do is watch Light in the Darkness by PragerU. I don't get any money for saying that. They're not a sponsor of the show. But it's something I watched recently. I'm like 4 or 5 episodes into the series, and it's eye-opening. So do something, okay? Speaking of sponsors, I'm going to give some love to our sponsors real quick. The first sponsor is Social Chameleon Podcast Agency. I actually run the agency. So Social Chameleon, it's podcasting done for you. Everything from audio, video podcasts, to cover art, show notes, distribution, podcasts just like the one that you're watching right now. We do this for our clients. Go to socialchameleon.us to learn more. You'll see our different plans there. If you have any questions, there's actually an opportunity to write to us on the website. I personally actually check every message that comes through the website just to see what people are interested in or questions that are asked. So I do see all of those. Please, if you have a question, do that. It's podcasting done for you. Second sponsor of the show is navigatingyourbooks.com, Navigator Bookkeeping. Nate over at Navigator Bookkeeping, I met him a couple years ago. He had me on his podcast. I got to learn a little bit about his business. I told him, dude, doing my books is like my least favorite thing. I'd rather do just about anything than have to sit there and go line by line in a spreadsheet trying to figure out my balances and my expenses and my accounting. He's like, let me take it off your hands. Just like Social Chameleon is podcasting done for you, navigatingyourbooks.com, Navigator Bookkeeping, is essentially accounting done for you. Nate does it for me. We meet monthly. He walks me through, this is where you're at. This is where you're looking to go. This is the pluses, the minuses. Every dollar, if I ask him a question, he understands it. He knows where it is. He can share that information with me. So highly recommend both of those companies. And I don't promote anything on the show or any company or brand that I don't personally use. So, Navigating Your Books is my actual bookkeeper. So that's why I'm comfortable and confident to say that to you guys. Check them out. Nate, thank you so much for everything you do for me. So I'm going to wrap up with this, guys. God's children are not for sale. I know it's on T-shirts. It's not just a catchy saying. And that is the reason that we're talking about this today is that there are children being sold, used, and abused. We got to figure out a way that we can end this. God's children are not for sale. They need our help. I sign off every episode, guys, with 2 things. If you watch the show before, sometimes you'll see me wear the Be Kind shirt. If you're wondering what the BGBG is on the hat, be great and be grateful. And that's how I end every show. And I'm grateful for you guys checking out the episode today, tuning in all the way to the end especially, and subscribing to the show. Obviously, doing that helps me out, but it allows me to know when you subscribe to the show and I see that, it allows me to know that you guys are enjoying what I'm doing, and obviously I'm going to continue to do more of it. So I appreciate you doing that. Thank you guys so much. Grateful for you. Enjoy the next episode coming up on next Monday. Back to the kind of the regular programming, if you will. Thank you guys. Appreciate you giving me a couple minutes of your time today. God's children are not for sale. Do your part. Peace. Thank you guys.